Have you ever heard of world schooling? Imagine getting to travel around the world, explore new cultures, and have new experiences every day with your family as your type of education. Hey guys, it's Jada from Progressive Schooling, and today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite topics, world schooling. So basically, world schooling is a modern educational movement where families take their kids out of conventional school to travel around the world, and they use the world as their classroom. So world schooling often includes traveling as a family and using the destinations as educational opportunities. World schoolers might get to learn math by calculating time changes and currencies. They may learn to write by documenting their trip through a blog, and they might learn science from visiting museums, and world schoolers might even learn different languages throughout the whole traveling process. And of course, one of the biggest things that they would learn is lots of history and different cultural aspects as they are traveling and being immersed in the different cultures. Okay, so now I'm going to get into the detail of all the different types of world schooling. So there are probably many different types, but there are four main ones that people talk about often. And the four are going to be the settled globetrotter, the unconventional traditionalist, the structured adventurer, and the world unschoolers. So let's get into it. So families who are part of the settled globetrotter list, they go on occasional trips. So they're kind of the families whose kids attend schools, and then they take their kids out of schools for maybe a month, 2 months, 3 months, or however long it is. They take them out of schools and travel, and they go on occasional trips once a year, maybe 2 times a year, maybe once every 2 years. So this is the most common one. So most people don't even realize that they're being world schooled because it's so common that a lot of parents take their kids out of schools to go on month vacations, and that still counts as world schooling. World schooling doesn't necessarily have to be taking your kids out of school permanently. The settled globetrotters often have one home base at home, and they, of course, travel occasionally, once a year maybe, or maybe they just go on one trip every 5 years. It doesn't necessarily matter how often they go, but if you are taking your kids out of school for a month or longer, maybe, it really depends, but if you're taking them out of school to travel and giving them an educational experience through travel when instead of being in school, that counts as a type of world schooling. So the unconventional traditionalists are the second group of world schoolers I'm going to talk about today, and they are the types of families who take their kids out of conventional school at home and they travel to different locations and enroll their kids in conventional schools around the world, whether it's an international school or a public school or a private school. They're immersing their kids in these different schools, which probably have many different cultures, and they're very different from what kids are used to. So it's a very interesting experience for them, getting to meet lots of new people and having a whole new classroom experience that's probably way different from what they were used to if they ever went to conventional school in their hometown. So then the structured adventurers are the kind of most known type of world schooling. So if you've ever heard of world schooling and you've heard a little bit about it, often the most popular types of families who will be blogging about it and posting on social media accounts about it are going to be the structured adventurers. So the structured adventurers are the families who are taking their kids out of school, conventional school, and instead they are kind of homeschooling them as they explore these new destinations that they go to. So often, as most types of world schooling families would do, they go to destinations based on what their kids are interested in. So for example, if their kids really like hiking, they might go take them to Tanzania and maybe even hike Mount Kilimanjaro. Or if their kids are really into elephants, maybe they will go to Thailand and give them the experience of meeting elephants and maybe helping take care of them and things like that. So these people often learn by a homeschool method, so they're still going to learn all of the basic things that they would learn in class, but they're learning it through the world. So they might be learning math through changing currencies, like I said earlier, and changing time changes and stuff. And often these homeschoolers will also have laptops or maybe iPads or some sort of device where they can do a bit of online school too if they're older and the parents want their kids to get a little bit more in-depth education. So they might use websites like Khan Academy and learn a bit of math and science along the way for things that they don't learn as much of through just natural travel. So the World Unschoolers are the last group I want to talk about, and they are the families who act as if school doesn't exist. So they normally travel and they don't worry about any sort of traditional education system or anything like that. They don't enroll their kids in schools abroad. They don't enroll them at home either. They are just traveling all around and just learning from the world. This is like an unschooling. It's a full type of unschooling, and they're not using textbooks. They're not using online educational programs. They are just the people who don't worry about it, and they just want their kids to get a real life education based off the world. Travel is an incredible source of education, and anyone who is able to world school in their lifetime they're very lucky, because this type of education is so amazing for kids to have and experiencing from the real world. So overall, all of these world schooling families often have the same basics. They want their kids to have an amazing education through travel. All 4 types of world schooling are amazing, and if you can do any of them, I highly suggest that it's very important for your kids to experience the world, and instead of just worrying about classroom and grades, getting to actually see the world for how it is instead of through a textbook. So I personally find world schooling a very amazing educational opportunity that I think every kid should have a chance to experience, even if it's just through a few weeks traveling somewhere. Now you might be wondering how these families can afford to world school and how they even start off. So if you want to know more about this, if you're interested in world schooling yourself, or if you just want to know more about the topic, go check it out at my website at progressiveschooling.com/worldschooling. There on my website, I also have lots of tips about how to get started world schooling and what families have started the movement and who is actually doing it. So you can follow certain families who are actually world schooling themselves, and you can see how they're doing and maybe even contact them if you have any questions. So I hope you learned a little bit about world schooling in this video. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.